I was in the living room watching TV when my daughter-in-law walked in, turned it off and said, "The family room is mine now. You can watch TV in your bedroom." My son looked away. I grabbed my keys and left. The next day, a man in a suit rang the doorbell. How do you make peace with the moment your own home stops being yours? My name is Candace Montgomery. I'm 67 years old. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Born here, worked here. 33 years at the county clerk's office. Retired here. And that evening, standing in my brown fabric power lift recliner, with my feet still warm from where they'd been resting, I realized I'd been living as a guest in my own house for the past 4 years. Behind Lorraine, I could see my son Samuel in the hallway. 39 years old, carrying shopping bags from stores we know they couldn't afford. His shoulders were tense, pulled up toward his ears like a man bracing for impact. Our eyes met for half a second. He looked away. That's when I knew. His silence wasn't confusion. It was permission. He was letting this happen. Lorraine crossed her arms, waiting for me to move. Her expression wasn't angry. That would have been easier to fight. No, she looked inconvenienced, like I was a piece of furniture blocking her path to the life she decided she deserved. I stood there, frozen, breathing. And then the memories started flooding back. Not all at once, but in rapid flashes, like a film reel I'd been refusing to watch. But what I didn't know then, what I couldn't have possibly understood in that moment, was that this wasn't the beginning of my eraser. It was just the first time I'd actually noticed it happening. 6 months ago, Lorraine rearranging my kitchen cabinets while I was at the doctor's office. "Candace, let me organize this properly. Your system is outdated. Nobody keeps canned goods on the top shelf anymore." She'd smiled when she said it, helpful, concerned. I'd thanked her and said nothing when I couldn't find the soup for a week. 4 months ago, I came home to find my curtains, the ones I'd hung myself after James died, the ones that let in just the right amount of morning light, gone. Replaced with something gray and modern that made the room feel like a hotel lobby. These are from the 9's Candace. I'm updating the look. You'll love it once you get used to it. I never got used to it. 2 months ago, Lorraine in the kitchen stirring something that smelled like vinegar and sadness while Samuel sat at my table. "Your mother's food is too heavy. All that butter and salt. It's not good for us. I'll make something healthier." Samuel had nodded. Just nodded. Didn't look at me when I walked in. Didn't say, "Mom's cooking is fine." Just kept scrolling on his phone while my daughter-in-law rewrote the menu in my own house. If I'd known then what I know now, I would have seen the pattern. But hindsight is a luxury you don't have when you're drowning slowly. 3 weeks ago, Thanksgiving. I'd started pulling out the roasting pan when Lorraine touched my shoulder. Light, gentle, the way you'd touch someone fragile. "Don't worry about Thanksgiving this year, Candace. I'll handle everything. Modern families expect a different kind of meal now. You just relax." I'd relaxed myself right out of my own kitchen while she hosted my holiday in my dining room with my dishes. Each memory was small, polite, wrapped in concern. But together, they were a campaign, a systematic eraser. Lorraine hadn't just moved into my house 4 years ago when she and Samuel needed a place to stay. She'd been slowly, methodically replacing me. One helpful suggestion at a time, one update at a time, one smile at a time. And I'd let her. I'd smiled back. I'd said thank you. I'd shrunk myself smaller and smaller until I'd become the size of furniture. Something to work around. Something that didn't object. Something that knew its place. Candace. Lorraine's voice cut through my thoughts. I'm not asking twice. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And for the first time in 4 years, I saw her clearly. Not as my son's wife. Not as someone I needed to accommodate to keep the peace, but as someone who'd been erasing me from my own life with my own son's silent permission in my own house that I'd paid for with 33 years of work. Something shifted inside me. Not rage. Rage is hot and loud and messy. This was colder, sharper. It was clarity, pure and clean as winter air. I felt it settle into my bones like ice crystallizing in my veins. This was the moment everything changed. I didn't argue, didn't defend myself, didn't beg Samuel to say something. I walked past both of them, Lorraine smug. Samuel staring at his shoes, and went to my bedroom. The sound of my low heels on the hardwood was the only sound in the house. I opened my dresser drawer. Bottom left under the folded sweaters James used to say made me look like a librarian. My property deed, my house keys, all of them, including the spare set. Samuel didn't know I had my will, my bank statements. I put them in my purse, closed the drawer, smoothed the sweaters back into place. Then I walked back through the family room, my family room where Lorraine had already turned the TV, back onto some reality show I'd never watched. Samuel was sitting on the couch now, bag still at his feet, staring at the screen like it held answers. Neither of them looked at me. I walked to the front door, opened it, stepped outside, and closed it behind me with a soft click that sounded to my ears like a gavel coming down. The lock turned. The porch light stayed off. I stood there for a moment, my purse heavy with the weight of ownership, my breath coming steady and cold in the November air. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. I walked to the curb, raised my hand, and flagged down a cab. And as the taxi pulled away from the house I'd lived in for decades, the house where I'd raised Samuel, buried James, and built a life, I felt something I hadn't felt in 4 years. I felt free. Little did I know that walking out that door would set off a chain of events that would expose secrets, destroy a marriage, and force me to become someone I never thought I could be. The cab driver asked me where I was going. I opened my mouth, and the words came out clean and certain. A downtown hotel, not my sister's house, not a friend's couch, a hotel, my money, my choice. The meter ticked past $18 by the time we pulled up to the entrance. I paid with cash from my wallet. Not a shared account, not a card Samuel could track. Mine. The lobby smelled like expensive candles and furniture polish. The carpet was thick enough to swallow the sound of my footsteps. I walked to the front desk and said the words I'd been practicing in my head the entire ride. I need a room, 4 weeks, quiet floor. The clerk, a young woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read, Jessica didn't ask questions. She just smiled and slid the paperwork across the counter. I signed my name, Candace Montgomery, not Mrs. James Montgomery, not Samuel's mother, just me. Room 412, key card in hand, elevator doors closing. The room was small but clean, queen bed with white sheets that smelled like lavender, a desk, a chair, a window that looked out over the city lights. I set my purse on the desk and pulled out my phone. My hands were steady. That surprised me. I thought they'd shake. My chest was tight with something that felt like terror and determination braided together. But my hands were rock solid. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I needed, Grace Hartwell. Grace and I went back years, not friends exactly, but professional acquaintances who'd crossed paths dozens of times during my years at the county clerk's office. She was an attorney, property disputes, estate law, the kind of cases where people fight over who owns what. I'd seen her work. She was sharp, thorough, and she didn't waste time on sentiment when the law was clear. I pressed call. She answered on the second ring. Candace, it's late. Everything okay? No, I said. And then I told her everything. The remote control, the order to go to my room. Samuel silenced the 4 years of living rentrée while I paid for everything, the eraser, the small cuts that had bled me dry without me even noticing. Grace didn't interrupt. She just listened. And when I finished, she said 5 words that changed everything. Do you own the house? Yes. Fully paid off. My name on the deed. James left it to me when he died. Lease agreement. No, they just moved in. I said yes, because Samuel needed help. There was never anything in writing. Silence. Then Candace. You know what you have here, right? This isn't a family issue. This is a legal issue. You have squatters. Squatters you're related to, but squatters nonetheless. You want them out. I closed my eyes, took a breath, and said the word I should have said 4 years ago. Yes. Then we start tomorrow. I'll draft a notice to quit. 30 days to vacate. No exceptions. If they've been living rentrée, we can also calculate back rent and penalties. But honestly, Candace, I'd keep this simple. Clean eviction. No negotiation. You want your house back or you want your money back my house? Good, that's easier. I'll have the paperwork ready by 8:00 a.m. You come to my office, sign everything, and my associate, Marcus Carter, will serve the papers personally. They'll have 30 days. After that, sheriff's office handles the rest if they refuse to leave. My chest tightened. Samuel's going to hate me. Grace's voice softened just a little. Candace. Samuel had 4 years to stop hating you being erased from your own home. He chose not to. What he feels now is his problem to solve, not yours. I didn't cry, but I wanted to. Instead, I said, "Thank you, Grace. See you at 8. And Candace, get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." She hung up. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed staring at my phone. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I called room service, ordered a turkey sandwich, fries, and a pot of coffee. When it arrived, I ate slowly, savoring every bite. I turned on the TV, my choice of channel, my choice of volume, and watched the late news. Nobody interrupted. Nobody changed the channel. Nobody told me to turn it down. At 11 p.m., I brushed my teeth, changed into the spare clothes I kept in my purse for emergencies, and climbed into bed. The sheets were cool and crisp. The room was silent except for the hum of the heating unit, and I slept deeply, soundly, the sleep of someone who'd finally stopped drowning. But what happened the next morning when those papers got served would trigger an explosion that would change my relationship with my son forever. I was at Grace's office at 7:45 a.m. The waiting area smelled like coffee and leather. The receptionist offered me tea. I said yes. Earl Grey, no sugar. I sat in the chair closest to the window and watched the city wake up. People hurrying to work, cars honking the world, moving forward like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Grace appeared at 8:03 carrying a manila folder thick with documents. "Candace, come on back." Her office was exactly what I expected. Bookshelves lined with legal texts, a mahogany desk that had probably cost more than my first car-framed diplomas on the wall. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. "I've got everything ready." Notice to quit 30-day eviction. Notice termination of gratuitous use of property, all ironclad. You just need to sign. She spread the papers across the desk like a hand of cards. I read every line. Grace didn't rush me. She knew I'd worked in property law long enough to understand exactly what I was signing. Each signature felt like a gavel strike. Candace Montgomery? Candace Montgomery? Candace Montgomery? My house, my decision, my name. When I finished, Grace gathered the papers and slid them back into the folder. "Marcus is already on his way to your address. He'll serve these within the hour. They'll have 30 days from today to vacate. If they refuse, we go to court. If they damage the property, we add that to the case. If they try to claim tenant rights, we have documentation showing no lease, no rent, no legal grounds. You're clean." I nodded. My hands weren't shaking. My voice was steady. "What do I do now?" "Wait. Marcus will call when it's done. After that, you sit tight. Let them panic. Let them scramble. Don't respond to phone calls. Don't engage with drama. If they want to talk, they talk through me. You're not their mother right now, Candace. You're their landlord. And landlords don't negotiate with people who've been stealing from them. Stealing. That's what it was, wasn't it? 4 years of free housing. 4 years of utilities. I paid groceries. I bought credit cards they used all while I shrank myself into the corners of my own house. I stood. Thank you, Grace. She walked me to the door. Candace, one more thing. When Samuel calls and he will, don't apologize. Don't explain, don't defend. You're not on trial. They are. I left the office and went back to the hotel. Ordered breakfast from the cafe downstairs, eggs, toast, fresh fruit. I ate by the window, watching the street below. At 9:34 a.m., my phone rang. Samuel. I stared at the screen, let it ring 3 times. Then I answered, Mom, what the hell is going on? There's a lawyer at the door. He's got papers. He says we have to leave. Mom, what did you do? I could hear Lorraine in the background, her voice high and sharp. Don't sign anything, don't take those papers. This is illegal. She can't do this. I took a sip of my coffee, swallowed, and then I spoke. Samuel, the man at the door, is Marcus Carter. He works for Grace Hartwell, my attorney. He's serving you with a formal eviction notice. You and Lorraine have 30 days to vacate my house. The house I own, the house you've been living in Rentrée for 4 years. Mom, you can't. This is insane. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know, Samuel. Where did you plan to go when you and Lorraine decided I should go to my room? Silence. Heavy, thick silence. Mom, please. Lorraine didn't mean it like that. She was having a bad day and tell Lorraine to lower her voice. Marcus is a professional and he doesn't deserve to be screamed at. This is crazy. You've lost your mind. I set my coffee cup down slowly, my hand steady even though my chest was on fire. I was furious, the kind of furious that makes your whole body feel like it's vibrating, like you might fly apart at any second. But my voice stayed level. No, Samuel, for the first time in 4 years, I'm completely sane. I suggest you start looking for apartments. 30 days goes by faster than you think. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. And then I sat there in that quiet hotel room with my breakfast getting cold and the city humming below. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt like myself again. I gave myself 10 minutes. 10 minutes to sit with what I'd just done. 10 minutes to let the reality settle into my bones. Then I opened my laptop. Grace had told me to wait to let them panic. But waiting didn't mean doing nothing. It meant making sure every thread they'd been hanging on to got cut cleanly, permanently. What I was about to do next would cut off their lifelines one by one, and they wouldn't even know it was happening until it was too late. First, the internet. I called the service provider, gave them my account number, verified my identity with the security questions only I knew the answers to. The representative, a young man named Derek, who sounded like he was reading from a script, asked how he could help me today. I need to suspend service at my home address effective immediately. May I ask why, ma'am, number pause? Okay, I can process that for you. Service will be suspended within 2 hours. Is there anything else? Yes. Cancel the cable package, all of it, including the sports channels. Lorraine had loved those sports channels. Watch basketball every weekend. Volume cranked up so loud I could hear it from my bedroom. My bedroom where I'd been sent like a child. Not anymore. Done. Anything else, the landline? Suspend that too. Derek paused again. Ma'am, if you suspend phone service, there won't be any way to... I know what suspend means. Do it. Yes, ma'am. I hung up, opened my banking app. Samuel had a supplementary card on my account. I'd given it to him years ago just for emergencies, Mom, and then watched the charges pile up. Groceries, gas, restaurants, a new TV last Christmas. None of it was for emergencies. All of it was just life. Their life funded by my account. I clicked through the menus until I found what I needed. Manage supplementary users. Samuel's name stared back at me. I clicked remove access. Confirmed. Done. Then I called the bank directly. Spoke to a representative named Paula who sounded competent and unbothered. I need to restrict account access. My son has been using my address for financial purposes, and I want to make sure he can't open new cards or make changes without my explicit written approval. Paula didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'll put a note on your account. No changes without verification from you personally. Anything else? If anyone tries to use my name or address for a loan application, I want to be notified immediately. Done. You'll get an alert within minutes if anything's attempted." I thanked her and hung up. The room was quiet. My hands were still steady, but I wasn't done yet. I needed new clothes, not the soft cardigans and loose pants I'd been wearing, the uniform of someone trying to disappear. I needed something that said, "I am not your furniture. I am not your guest. I own the ground you're standing on, and I want it back." I walked 6 blocks to a department store I'd passed 100 times but never entered. The kind of place where the salespeople greet you at the door, and the clothes cost more than I usually spent in a month. A woman in her 40s approached me, her smile professional and warm. "Can I help you find something? I need a blazer navy or gray, and a pair of trousers and a white blouse. Professional clean." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Follow me." 20 minutes later, I was standing in front of a 3-way mirror wearing navy trousers, a crisp white blouse, and a tan blazer that fit me like armor. The saleswoman adjusted the collar and stepped back. "You look powerful," she said. I looked at my reflection. She was right. I looked like someone who'd never doubted herself a day in her life. I looked like someone who owned things, property decisions, her own future. I bought the outfit, added a pair of leather pumps, a structured handbag. When the cashier rang up the total $340, I didn't flinch. I handed over my card, my account, my money. On the way out, I passed a charity donation bin. I thought about the pile of cardigans in my hotel room, the shapeless pants, the clothes I'd been wearing to make myself smaller. I'd drop them off later. Someone else could have them. I stopped at a restaurant 2 blocks from the hotel, the kind of place with white tablecloths and a wine list thicker than most books. I ordered the crab cake special and a glass of Chardonnay. Halfway through my meal, I turned my phone back on to check messages. A notification from the bank immediately appeared. Transaction declined. Amount 9214S. Merchant Premium Meats. I stared at the screen. $92 for meat. Lorraine had tried to buy a prime ribeye with Samuel's card, the card I just blocked. I smiled, took a bite of my crab cake, chewed slowly. The satisfaction was warm and thick, like honey spreading through my chest. The buzz came again. A text from Samuel. "Mom, the card isn't working. Can you call the bank?" There must be a mistake. I deleted the text, took another sip of wine. There was no mistake. But what Samuel didn't know yet, what would become clear in the next few hours, was that the card and the internet were just the beginning. I was systematically dismantling their entire infrastructure. The call came at 7:00 p.m. I just finished dinner takeout from a Thai place down the street, eating slowly while I watched the evening news. When my phone lit up with Samuel's name, I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I answered, "Mom." His voice was tight, strained. "I'm downstairs in the hotel lobby. I need to talk to you, please." I looked at the ceiling, thought about saying no, thought about hanging up and turning off my phone, but I didn't. "Give me 5 minutes." I changed into the navy blazer and trousers, fixed my hair in the mirror, slid on the leather pumps. When I walked out of the elevator and into the lobby, I looked like someone who'd never doubted herself a day in her life. Samuel was standing near the front desk, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders hunched. When he saw me, his eyes widened. "Mom, you look different. I am different." He glanced around the lobby, then gestured toward a seating area in the corner. 2 chairs, a low table, a potted plant that looked fake. I sat. He sat across from me, leaning forward, hands clasped like he was praying. Mom, please, you have to turn the internet back on. And the credit card. Lorraine is losing it. She needs the internet for work. And we can't just, we don't have. You don't have what, Samuel, money? We don't have money. I let the words sit there, heavy, undeniable. You've been living in my house for 4 years. No rent, no utilities. I paid for groceries, insurance, cable, everything. Where did your money go? He looked down at his hands. Lorraine said it was tied up. Business investments. She said we were building something. And you believed her, she's my wife. She's also a liar. But let's do some math. Samuel, you work full-time, 40 hours a week, decent salary. Lorraine freelances. Let's say together you bring in $110,000 a year. No rent, no utilities, no major expenses. That's 4 years. Where's the $440,000? His expression collapsed, all the blood draining from his face until he looked sick. His breath caught. It's not Mom. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Where's the money? Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I don't know. I nodded. Then I suggest you ask your wife, because I'm done funding a black hole. He straightened up, his voice rising. You can't just cut us off. We have nowhere to go. You have 30 days to figure it out. That's more than I got when Lorraine told me to go to my room. Samuel flinched. She didn't mean it like that. How did she mean it, Samuel? Explain it to me. He opened his mouth, closed. It looked at the ceiling like the answer might be written there. Then he leaned forward again, his voice dropping to something softer, almost desperate. Mom? Lorraine wanted to tell you herself, but we've been talking about starting a family. I went very still. She's been looking at cribs online, researching pediatricians. She wants to make the house more baby-friendly. Don't you want to be part of that? Don't you want to know your grandchildren? The pull was immediate, visceral, a grandchild. James's grandchild, the continuation of everything we'd built together. I could picture it. A crib in the second bedroom, toys scattered across the living room floor, tiny hands reaching for me. But then I looked at Samuel, really looked at him, at the desperation in his eyes, at the way he was leaning forward, trying to make me feel guilty, trying to weaponize something that didn't even exist yet. And that's when I realized this was the manipulation at its finest, using hope and family and love as currency to buy their way back into my house. Samuel, I said quietly, is Lorraine pregnant? He hesitated. Not yet, but we're planning. So you're using a baby that doesn't exist to manipulate me into giving you back my credit card. Mom, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Lorraine is already using the idea of my grandchild as a bargaining chip, then I know everything I need to know about what kind of mother she'll be. Samuel's face crumpled. Mom, please, we're family. Family doesn't order family to their rooms. Samuel, family doesn't erase family from their own homes. Family doesn't steal $440,000 and call it business investments. I stood up. Samuel stood, too, reaching out like he might grab my arm. Tomorrow morning, 10:00 a.m., Grace Hartwell's office. You and Lorraine. We're going to sit down and review exactly where your money went. Bring bank statements. Bring investment records. Bring everything. If Lorraine has been managing your finances, I want to see proof that she didn't gamble it all away on margin calls and luxury purchases. She wouldn't. Then prove it. 10:00 a.m. sharp. Grace will send you the address. I walked past him toward the elevator. Samuel called after me, his voice breaking. Mom, if we lose the house, Lorraine says she'll file for divorce. I stopped, turned back, and said the words that needed to be said. Samuel, if your marriage depends on square footage and bank accounts, it's not a marriage. It's a hostage situation, and you're the hostage. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. The last thing I saw before the doors closed was Samuel standing in the middle of the lobby looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. I made it back to my room, closed the door, locked it, and then I stood there breathing. My chest was tight, my throat burning with unshed tears, but I wouldn't let them fall. Not yet. The room was too quiet, the walls too close. I turned on the TV just to fill the silence, but the voices felt wrong, too cheerful, too distant, like they were coming from another planet where people didn't tear their families apart over property deeds. I turned it off, sat on the edge of the bed, picked up my phone, scrolled to Grace's number. My finger hovered over the call button. Cancel everything. The meeting, the eviction, all of it. The words were right there, ready to spill out. I could undo this. I could call Samuel back, tell him I overreacted, that we'd work something out. I could turn the internet back on, restore the credit card, pretend the last 48 hours never happened. I could go back to being furniture, but my finger didn't press the button because the doubts were louder than my resolve. I was terrified. The kind of terrified that makes your stomach feel hollow and your thoughts spiral into worst-case scenarios you can't control. What if Samuel never forgives me? What if I die alone in that big empty house, no one to call, no one to visit? What if the neighbors start whispering, "Did you hear about Candace Montgomery?" Throughout her own son? What kind of mother does that? What if Lorraine really is trying to get pregnant and I never meet my grandchild because I chose a house over family? What if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life? I set the phone down, pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes. My breath came in short, shallow gasps. I felt like I was drowning again, but this time in my own fear. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I opened my wallet, pulled out the small photograph tucked behind my credit cards, the one I carried everywhere, but rarely looked at because it hurt too much. James, my husband, taken at our 25th anniversary dinner. He's wearing his good suit, the dark gray one he saved for special occasions. His smile is wide, genuine, the kind of smile that made people trust him on sight. I ran my thumb along the edge of the photo, the plastic sleeve worn smooth from years of being carried. I remembered something he'd said to me once. We were in the kitchen. He was fixing a loose cabinet hinge. I was filing paperwork from the office. I'd been agonizing over whether to report a property transfer I knew was fraudulent. The family involved was in a bad situation, and I'd been terrified that doing the right thing legally would destroy them emotionally. James had set down his screwdriver and looked at me. Candace, you always were afraid of being selfish, but selfishness is taking what isn't yours. Protecting what is yours is just common sense. Don't confuse the two. I stared at his face in the photo. Protecting what is yours is just common sense. My house, my money, my dignity, my peace, none of that was selfish to protect. But sitting here alone in a hotel room that smelled like air freshener in other people's lives, this felt selfish. This felt cruel. This felt like I was choosing things over people. Except it wasn't things. It was my life. My right to exist in my own home without being told where I could sit, what I could watch, when I could be seen. And it wasn't cruelty. It was boundaries. But God, it was terrifying. The tears came then. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent, exhausting tears that ran down my face and dripped onto the photograph in my hands. I was heartbroken. The kind of heartbroken where you physically ache, where your body feels too heavy to hold upright. I cried for the son I thought I'd raised, the one who would have stood up for me, who would have told his wife that no one talks to his mother like that. I cried for the years I'd wasted trying to keep the peace, trying to make myself smaller so everyone else could be comfortable. I cried for the grandmother I might never become, for the empty holidays ahead, for the loneliness waiting for me in that quiet house. I cried because I was terrified. And I cried because I was doing this anyway. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, put the photo back in my wallet, picked up my phone, and I texted Grace. Tomorrow at 10:00, I'll be there. Her response came 30 seconds later. Good. Get some rest. I set the phone on the nightstand, lay back on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and I whispered to the empty room, to James, to myself, to whoever was listening. I'm scared, but I'm going anyway. I closed my eyes, and eventually, somehow I slept. Not the peaceful sleep of someone who knows they're doing the right thing, but the exhausted sleep of someone who's decided to survive. Grace's conference room smelled like leather and old wood, the kind of smell that whispers money and consequence in equal measure. I arrived at 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes early. Grace met me in the reception area, her expression neutral but her eyes sharp. You ready? No, I said, but I'm here anyway. She almost smiled. That'll do. The conference room had a long table, high-backed chairs and windows that looked out over the city. Grace sat up at the head of the table with her files spread in front of her, like a general planning a siege. I sat to her right, my hands folded on the table, my blazer pressed and perfect. At 9:58, the door opened. Samuel came in first. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt hair uncombed. He glanced at me, then looked away quickly, like I was something bright that hurt to see. Lorraine followed, and she looked furious. Her hair was pulled back tight, her makeup hastily applied. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt. No effort, no polish. She threw herself into a chair across from me and crossed her arms. "This is ridiculous," she announced to the room. Absolutely ridiculous. Grace didn't look up from her papers. "Mrs. Montgomery, thank you for joining us. Let's begin." Lorraine leaned forward, jabbing a finger at the table. "I want to make something very clear. We have rights. We've been living in that house for 4 years. That establishes residency squatters' rights, adverse possession. You can't just throw us out." Grace finally looked up. Her expression was perfectly blank. "Actually, Mrs. Montgomery, adverse possession requires several conditions. Open and notorious occupation. Yes, you have that, exclusive possession. No, Mrs. Candace Montgomery lives there as well. Hostile claim, debatable since you moved in with permission, and most importantly, continuous possession for the statutory period, which in Pennsylvania is 21 years. You've been there no, you don't have squatters' rights." Lorraine's expression shifted, her jaw, tightening her eyes, going hard. "Then we'll sue for emotional distress, for elder abuse in reverse, for what Grace's voice was, ice. For being asked to leave property you don't own after living there, Rentrée. Good luck finding an attorney who'll take that case." Samuel shifted in his chair. "Mom, please, we can work this out. We don't need lawyers." "Yes," I said quietly. "We do." Lorraine's eyes snapped to me, and then something shifted in her expression. The anger melted into something else, something calculated and cruel. She leaned back in her chair, her voice taking on a tone I'd never heard before, soft, concerned, condescending. "Grace, Ms. Hartwell, I think we need to talk about what's really happening here." Grace raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening. Candace is 67 years old. She's been alone for 16 years since her husband died. She's isolated. And I hate to say this, but I think she's not thinking clearly." My stomach dropped. Lorraine continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "People her age sometimes get confused. They make irrational decisions. They see threats that aren't there. She's acting paranoid, Miss Hartwell. She's lashing out at the people who love her most. Maybe she needs help, not lawyers. Maybe we should be talking about cognitive assessments, medical evaluations." "Stop." My voice cut through the room like a blade. Lorraine blinked. "Candace, you're trying to paint me as incompetent, unfit, too old, and confused to make my own decisions. Samuel, tell her. Tell her I'm not. But Samuel was looking at the table, his jaw tight, his shoulders tense. And I realized he wasn't going to defend me. He was considering it, considering whether his wife might be right. I felt sick, physically sick, like I might throw up right there at the conference table. The betrayal hit me like a slap. Grace's expression hadn't changed, but she glanced at me with a question in her eyes. Do you have a response to this? I reached into my briefcase, pulled out a document, slid it across the table. It landed directly in front of Lorraine. What's this? She asked. Read it, I said. Lorraine picked it up. Her eyes scanned the page, and then her expression collapsed, all the blood draining from her face like someone had pulled a plug. It was a comprehensive cognitive assessment from Dr. Gerald Reeves, a neurologist who specialized in competency evaluations for legal proceedings dated 1 week ago, scheduled right after Lorraine told me to go to my room. The results were printed in clear clinical language, full cognitive function, excellent memory, superior reasoning ability, sound judgment, no impairments noted. Ms. Montgomery demonstrates above average mental acuity for any age group. Her decision-making capacity is unimpaired. At the bottom, Dr. Reeves had added a handwritten note. This woman is sharper than most attorneys I work with. If anyone questions her competency, they're reaching. I looked directly at Lorraine. I scheduled that evaluation the day after you turned off my television because I knew exactly what you'd try. I've seen this before. At the clerk's office, we'd get property transfers from adult children who'd convinced everyone their parents were losing it. I know how this works, and I made sure you'd have no grounds to claim I wasn't competent when I threw you out. Silence. Heavy, crushing silence. Grace's pen scratched loudly as she wrote in her notepad, "Let the record show that Mrs. Lorraine Montgomery attempted to question Ms. Candace Montgomery's mental fitness as a defense strategy, and that Ms. Montgomery provided documented evidence of full cognitive capacity." Lorraine slumped back in her chair, her face blank with shock. Samuel looked like he might be sick, and I felt something cold and sharp crystallize in my chest. Not rage, not vindication, just clarity. I'd been 10 steps ahead of them the entire time. If they'd thought they could outmaneuver me, a woman who'd spent 33 years navigating property law, they'd miscalculated badly. And they were about to find out just how badly. Grace continued. Now let's discuss the financial records. Mrs. Lorraine Montgomery, you've been managing household finances for the past 4 years. Ms. Candace Montgomery has requested a full accounting of savings investments and expenditures. Do you have those records with you? Lorraine didn't move. Mrs. Montgomery, I don't have everything here. It's complicated. There are multiple accounts. Then I'll make it simple. I pulled out another document. Bank statements, brokerage statements, loan notices, all printed, highlighted, organized. I slid them across the table one by one like evidence at a trial. 4 years ago, when you and Samuel moved in, his savings account had $28,000. You claimed you'd save the rent money approximately $2,000 a month to build a down payment for your own place. That's $96,000 over 4 years, plus Samuel's salary minus reasonable expenses. You should have at least $110,000 saved. I tapped the first bank statement. Current balance $347. Samuel grabbed the paper, his hands shaking his face, went slack, his mouth opening slightly like he'd forgotten how to close it. I slid over the next document. Margin call notice from your brokerage account. You were trading on leverage, borrowing money to gamble on stocks. When the market dropped, you owed more than you had. They liquidated your positions at a loss. Lorraine's voice was barely a whisper. That was an investment strategy. It was gambling and you lost. Next document, loan default notice. You took out a personal loan for $15,000 last year. Claimed it was for home improvements. What improvements, Lorraine? The throw pillows. The curtains you replaced without asking. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. I kept going. Credit card statements showing luxury purchases, designer bags, premium sports packages, restaurant bills that cost more than I spend on groceries in a month, all while living rent-free in my house. The final document was the most damning. And this, your current brokerage balance not zero $4,200. You don't just have no savings, you're in debt. Samuel stared at the numbers like they were written in a foreign language. His voice cracked. Zero. We don't even have zero. We have less than zero. Lorraine's face crumpled. Samuel, I was trying to build something for us. You were trying to get rich quick, I said flatly. And you gambled away 4 years of your husband's work while living off me. Grace cleared her throat. Miss Candace Montgomery, what are your terms? I looked at Samuel, then at Lorraine. Then I spoke. 30 days to vacate. Not negotiable. All utilities remain suspended. No supplementary credit cards restored. When I return to collect my personal belongings next week, if there's screaming, I file a police report. If there's property damage, I add it to the eviction case. You move out quietly, or you move out with a sheriff's escort. Your choice. Samuel's voice was small, broken. Mom, where are we supposed to go? I don't know, Samuel, but that's not my problem to solve anymore. I stood. Grace stood with me. Lorraine finally found her voice. This isn't over. I'll post about this. Everyone will know what you did. Your friends, your neighbors, everyone. Go ahead, I said. Post whatever you want. I have documentation. I have evidence. I have a cognitive assessment from a neurologist. What do you have? An account and a history of lying. I picked up my briefcase, looked at Samuel one last time. This is your choice, Samuel. You can keep drowning with someone who lied to you for 4 years, who gambled away your future, who tried to paint your mother as incompetent, or you can start swimming to the surface alone. But I'm not throwing you another rope. Grace opened the door. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Lorraine start to cry. Loud, gasping sobs that sounded more like rage than sadness. I didn't look back. I was halfway to the elevator when my phone rang. Samuel. I stopped walking, stared at the screen, answered Mom. His voice was shaking. I'm in the parking lot. I didn't get in her car. I closed my eyes. What, Lorraine's down there, screaming, hitting the steering wheel, but I walked away. I'm standing here. I don't know what to do. My chest tightened. Samuel. I called Kevin, my friend Kevin. I needed to talk to someone, anyone. And Mom, he told me something. I waited. Last month at their barbecue, Lorraine told everyone that you live with us, that you can't afford your own place, that we took you in out of charity, that the house is ours, and you're just staying there until we figure out what to do with you. The words hit me like cold water. She told them you're basically homeless, that we're doing you a favor. Kevin said people have been asking him if you're okay, if you need help, if there's a fund they can donate to. Everyone thinks you're some sad case we're supporting. My hand tightened on the phone. And you didn't know she was saying this? No, Mom, I swear I had no idea. I thought she was just talking about family stuff. I didn't know she was lying, making me look like a good son for taking care of me. I finished, yes. And now Kevin's telling me that half our friends think I'm some saint for supporting my aging mother. They've been congratulating me, telling me I'm a good man. The whole time she's been making herself look generous with my property and making you look like a fool. Silence. Then I'm filing for divorce. I exhaled slowly. Samuel, not just because of the money. I mean, yes, that's part of it. But Mom, she made me look like an idiot in front of everyone I know. She lied about you. She lied using you. And I stood there in that conference room. When she tried to say you were incompetent, I almost believed her. His voice broke. I'm ashamed, Mom. I'm so ashamed. Didn't see it. I leaned against the wall, my eyes burning. Samuel, listen to me. Seeing it now is what matters. Walking away from her car is what matters. You took a step. Keep walking. We're anywhere but back to where the screaming is. I heard him breathe in and out, ragged and uneven. Can I see you tomorrow? Just us. No lawyers, just coffee. Yes, I said. But Samuel, when we meet as two separate adults, not as mother and son living under one roof, not as people who share keys and accounts, as two people having coffee. Do you understand? I understand. Good. Text me when you're ready. I hung up and then I walked to the elevator, rode it down to the lobby and stepped out into the sunlight. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe all the way down to the bottom of my lungs. That evening, I went to a restaurant by the waterfront, the kind of place where the tables have white cloths and the server brings you bread that's still warm from the oven. I ordered the seared salmon and a glass of Soignon Blanc. No one interrupted me. No one changed my order. No one told me I should have picked something else. Halfway through dinner, my phone buzzed. A bank notification. Account protection confirmed. Supplementary cards permanently closed. Life insurance beneficiary updated. I'd changed my life insurance that morning. Samuel was no longer the primary beneficiary. A local scholarship fund for children of municipal workers was, if something happened to me tomorrow, my house, my savings, my life's work wouldn't go to someone who'd let his wife order me to my room. It would go to students who needed it. I took a sip of wine, watched the sun set over the water. My phone buzzed again, a text from Samuel. Mom, I'm staying at Kevin's tonight. I can't go back to the house yet. I just wanted you to know I'm okay. I typed back, good, take your time, breathe. Don't rush back to where screams are waiting. His response came immediately, thank you. I set my phone down, finished my salmon declined dessert, but ordered coffee, and when the check came, I paid it myself with my own card from my own account that no one else had access to. It felt like the best meal I'd had in years. The next 3 weeks were a master class in tying up loose ends. I signed final paperwork with Grace, eviction notice filed, court date set as a backup in case they refused to leave. All documentation, airtight. I authorized Marcus in writing to oversee the move-out process so I wouldn't have to be there when they packed. I scheduled a painter to repaint the family room sage green, the exact color it had been when James and I first moved in. I got my hair trimmed at a salon I'd never been to before. The stylist ran her fingers through it and said, "Your silver is gorgeous. We should let it shine." I left with my haircut shorter, the gray gleaming in the light like polished steel. But Lorraine didn't go quietly. On day 6 of the eviction period, my phone started buzzing with messages. Candace, I saw Lorraine's post. Are you okay? What's going on? Lorraine says you kicked them out for no reason. Do you need someone to talk to? I opened my accounts, something I rarely did, and found Lorraine's page. She'd posted 3 times in the last 2 days. The first post, when the people who are supposed to love you turn on you for no reason. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes the people who birthed you are the ones who hurt you most. The second elder abuse works both ways. Sometimes the victim is the abuser. The third, praying for strength as I navigate this season of abandonment and betrayal. If you've ever been rejected by a parent, you understand. Each post had dozens of comments, sympathetic, supportive, outraged on her behalf. I took screenshots of everything. Then I closed the app and called Grace. She's posting about you, Grace said before I could speak. I know, I've been monitoring it. She's being careful. No direct accusations, nothing actionable. But she's absolutely painting you as the villain. What do I do? Nothing. Let her talk. Talking is all she can do. If she crosses the line into defamation, we'll add it to the file. For now, she's just making noise. But the noise got louder. Friends I hadn't spoken to in months started calling. My neighbor Beverly knocked on my hotel room door one evening looking worried. "Candace, what's happening? Lorraine's been posting all over the internet. People are asking me if you're okay, if you've had some kind of breakdown." I invited her in, made tea, told her everything. When I finished, Beverly looked furious. That manipulative little Beverly. No, Candace. No. She's been living in your house rentrée, and now she's painting you as the bad guy. I'm going to comment on every single one of those posts and tell people the truth. Don't I said. Let her talk. The truth has a way of coming out. And it did. On day 12, Samuel made his own post. I didn't see it until Beverly texted me the screenshot. Samuel had written, "Since there's been a lot of talk online, I want to set the record straight. My mother did not abandon me. She evicted me and my wife from her house after 4 years of us living there rentrée, while my wife gambled away our savings. The house was always my mother's. Every post my wife has made is a lie. I'm filing for divorce and I'm moving forward with my life. If you've been sending sympathy to my wife based on her posts, you've been lied to. I'm sorry I didn't speak up sooner. The post went viral among their friend circle. The comments were brutal. Oh my God, Lorraine, you've been lying this whole time. So you were living in his mother's house and pretending it was yours. This is embarrassing for you, Samuel. Good for you for telling the truth. Your mom deserves better." Lorraine's post disappeared within hours, but the damage was done. On day 18, my bank called. "Ms. Montgomery, this is Paula from Fraud Prevention. We've received an application for a home equity line of credit using your property as collateral. The signature doesn't match what we have on file. We need you to verify." My stomach dropped. I didn't apply for anything. That's what we thought. The applicant's name is Lorraine Montgomery. She listed your address and claimed to be an owner of the property. She's not. She's being evicted. This is fraud. Paula's voice went cold and professional. "We'll flag this immediately and deny the application. I'm also noting on your file that any future applications using your property need to be verified by phone directly with you. And Miss Montgomery, you may want to involve your attorney. I called Grace before I even hung up with the bank. She tried to take out a loan using my house," I said, my voice shaking. "Grace, she tried to. I know the bank already contacted me. I'm drafting a cease and desist letter right now. If she tries anything else, we're pressing criminal charges." The letter arrived at Lorraine's temporary address by courier that afternoon, and the loan application flagged as fraudulent, which meant it went on Lorraine's credit report, which meant every landlord who ran her background check would see it, which meant finding a place to rent just got a whole lot harder. The consequences kept rippling outward. 2 of Lorraine's freelance clients terminated their contracts. One of them told a mutual acquaintance it was because they didn't want to be associated with the drama. Her professional reputation, built partly on the image of a caring daughter-in-law helping her aging mother-in-law, collapsed. People who'd believed her posts started distancing themselves once Samuel's truth came out. And Samuel, he changed his phone number, his email, blocked Lorraine on every platform. She tried reaching him through mutual friends, but they all refused to play messenger. On day 29, Marcus called me. "They're moving out tomorrow. Lorraine's been making noise, but she signed the handover documents. The locks will be changed as soon as they're gone. There's some damage holes in the walls from where they hung things, some furniture marks on the floors, but nothing structural." "I'll handle it," I said. "One more thing. Lorraine asked if she could leave a note for you. I told her no. Just thought you should know." "Thank you, Marcus." On day 30, I stayed at a spa, got a massage, had lunch at a cafe with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a park. At 4:00 p.m., Marcus called. "They're gone. Truck left 20 minutes ago. House is empty. Keys are on the counter." I finished my tea, paid the check, drove to a hardware store, and bought cleaning supplies, trash bags, and a new welcome mat. Then I drove to my house. My house. I parked in the driveway, sat there for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. Then I got out, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The house exhaled. I swear I felt it like the walls had been holding their breath for 4 years and finally let it out. I stood in the entryway, my new keys heavy in my hand, and just listened. No footsteps from the hall, no TV blaring from the family room, no voices arguing about who forgot to buy milk, just silence. Golden, clean silence. I set my purse on the entry table, the same table Lorraine had called dated, and tried to replace and walked through the house slowly. The family room first. The brown fabric power lift recliner was still there. Thank God. They'd taken the couch, the throw pillows, the decorative sign that said, "Gather" in cursive letters. Good riddance. But there were holes in the walls where they'd hung picture frames, scuff marks on the floor where furniture had been dragged, a faint smell of something chemical, air freshener maybe, trying to cover something else. I opened all the windows, every single one. Let the November air sweep through and carry out the stale breath of someone else's life. Then I put on the gloves I'd bought at the hardware store and got to work. I started in the kitchen, wiped down every surface counter's cabinets, the inside of the refrigerator that still smelled like Lorraine's vinegar experiments. I scrubbed the stovetop until it gleamed, reorganized the cabinets the way I wanted them, canned goods on the top shelf, coffee mugs on the second, everything in its place. My place. I found things Lorraine had left behind. A yoga mat shoved in the hall closet, a stack of magazines about interior design that no one had read, a motivational poster about manifesting abundance that made me laugh out loud. All of it went into garbage bags. I moved to the family room, pulled down the gray curtains Lorraine had hung, and folded them neatly into a donation box. I'd hang my own curtains later, the ones I'd packed away to avoid conflict, the ones that let in morning light the way I liked it. I found the framed print of the Liberty Bell that Lorraine had moved to a back hallway. Too touristy, she'd said. I rehung it in the family room, right where it had always been, right where James had hung it the year we moved in. By evening, I'd filled 6 garbage bags and 3 donation boxes. The floors had been mopped twice, the windows cleaned, the bathroom scrubbed until the grout was white again. I stood in the family room, sweaty and tired and covered in dust, and looked around. It still needed work. The painter was coming tomorrow. The holes in the walls needed to be patched. I'd need new furniture eventually, but it was mine again. I walked to the kitchen, made coffee the way I liked it, strong black. No apologies. Carried the mug back to the family room and sat in my brown recliner. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of possibility, full of peace. I took a sip of coffee and looked around my house, and whispered, "Welcome home, Candace." The house seemed to settle around me, warm, steady, safe. For the first time in 4 years, I was home. 3 days later, Samuel knocked on the door, not with his key. He didn't have his key anymore. He knocked like a guest. I opened the door. He was standing on the porch, hands shoved in his pockets, looking smaller than I remembered, thinner. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there a month ago. "Hi, Mom." Samuel. We stood there for a moment, then I stepped back. "Come in." He walked past me into the entryway, his eyes scanning the family room. "You painted sage green like it was before. It looks good." I led him to the kitchen, put the kettle on, cut 2 slices of sweet potato pie I'd made that morning, the first thing I'd baked in my own kitchen in years. We sat across from each other at the table. 2 mugs, 2 plates, a careful distance between us. Samuel took a bite of pie, closed his eyes. "I forgot how good your cooking is." I didn't respond. Just sipped my tea and waited. He set his fork down. "I got a studio apartment north side. It's small. The upstairs neighbor's loud. The heat's unreliable, but it's mine. I'm paying for it myself." Good. I took a full-time position. Benefits, 401k, the whole thing. No more freelance, no more let Lorraine handle the money. I'm handling it now. Good. He looked at me. really looked at me. The divorce papers are filed. She tried to fight it, but I've got documentation now. The gambling, the loans, the lies. My lawyer says it'll be final in 6 months. And how do you feel about that? He was quiet for a long time, then relieved, ashamed, angry, all of it. I nodded. That sounds right. Lorraine keeps trying to contact me through old friends through her sister. She says you broke up our marriage, that you manipulated me, that I'm choosing money over love. And what do you say? I say she broke up our marriage the moment she turned off your TV and told you to go to your room. I say I'm not choosing money. I'm choosing to stop pretending I can't hear my own voice. My chest tightened. Samuel. Mom. I need to say this. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the table. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I let her treat you like that. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you. I'm sorry I almost believed her when she tried to say you were incompetent. I'm sorry I was so afraid of conflict that I let you become invisible in your own house. I set my tea down. You're saying it now. That's what matters. Is it because I don't know if saying sorry is enough? I don't know if anything is enough. Samuel, you walked away from her car. You called me. You filed for divorce. You got your own apartment. Those aren't words. Those are actions. And actions are what count. He wiped his eyes quickly. Can I visit like this, as a guest? No keys. No staying over. Just tea and conversation. I looked at my son, at the man he was trying to become. Yes, I said the door's open for guests, permanently closed for tenants. He nodded, finished his pie, helped me wash the dishes without being asked. When he left, he hugged me briefly at the door. An adult embrace, respectful, careful. Thank you, Mom. For what? For saying no, for teaching me that hearing yourself isn't a luxury, it's survival. He walked down the porch steps, got into his car, and drove away. I stood in the doorway and watched him go, and for the first time in years, I felt like I'd done the right thing. The message from Beverly came on a Tuesday afternoon. Candace, can I bring Margaret over tomorrow? She needs to talk to you. It's urgent. I texted back, Wednesday at 4, I'll put on coffee. At 3:45, I set up the dining room table. Folders, blank paper, pens, envelopes, everything a woman might need to protect herself. Beverly arrived first, holding Margaret's arm like she might collapse. Margaret was in her early 60s, well-dressed, but her eyes were red and her hands were shaking. Behind them was Patricia, another neighbor I'd known for years. I hope it's okay I came, Patricia said. Beverly told me what you did and I need help too. I gestured them all inside, made coffee, set out cookies I'd baked that morning. We sat around the table and Margaret started crying before anyone even spoke. My daughter-in-law wants me to sign over my house. She says it's for estate planning for taxes, that it'll help my son when I'm gone. But Candace, she keeps pressuring me. And she said, if I don't help them with a down payment, she'll make sure I don't see my grandson. She's using my grandson as his leverage. I finished. Margaret nodded, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my grandson, but the house is all I have. If I sign it over, what happens to me? I leaned forward. Margaret, listen to me. If your daughter-in-law is using your grandchild to manipulate you, she's not offering you time with your grandson. She's making you buy it. That's not family. That's extortion. Patricia spoke up quietly. My daughter-in-law redecorated my living room without asking, just like what happened to you. She said my furniture was depressing and she was helping. But Candace, it doesn't feel like help. It feels like she's erasing me. Beverly nodded. Mine borrows money all the time. Just $200, Mom. Just $500, Mom. She never pays it back. And when I ask for it, she says I'm being selfish. That family doesn't keep track. I looked at these women mothers of adult sons all being slowly erased by daughters-in-law who'd learned that guilt and manipulation are cheaper than rent. "We're starting a group," I said, "Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Anyone who needs help protecting their home, their money, their dignity. We'll meet here. I'll teach you what I know." Margaret looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. "Really, really?" "And Margaret, don't sign anything. Not yet. Let me help you first." The next Wednesday, 6 women showed up. The Wednesday after that, 9. I taught them the basics. Never gift property while you're alive. Use a will instead. Never share passwords. Get receipts for borrowed money. Limit powers of attorney with specific end dates. Learn to say, "I am not ready to change the owner of the property," without apologizing. The meetings felt like church, like testimony. Women sharing stories they'd been too ashamed to tell anyone else. And every week I took notes, patterns, warning signs, scripts for difficult conversations. The notes grew into something bigger. On the 4th Wednesday, Beverly arrived early, looking nervous. I brought someone else. "She's outside." I wanted to make sure it was okay first. "Who is it?" "Her name is Doris. She's Candace. She's already in trouble. Deep trouble. But I thought maybe you could help." I nodded. "Bring her in." Beverly stepped outside and returned with a woman who looked like she'd been carved from defeat. Doris was in her early 70s, neatly dressed, but hunched her eyes cast down like she was apologizing for existing. The other women arrived. We all sat around the table and Doris spoke. I already signed. The words fell into the room like stones into water. 3 years ago, my son and his wife came to me. They said it was estate planning, that it would help with taxes, that I'd still live there. Nothing would change. They took me to their lawyer. I trusted my boy. I didn't read every page. I signed. Her voice cracked. Last month they gave me a letter. 60 days to vacate. My daughter-in-law said I'd be more comfortable in an assisted living facility. They want to renovate, make it a real family home. My son wouldn't even look at me when she said it. Margaret gasped. Patricia reached over and grabbed Doris's hand. I felt my chest tighten. This could have been me if I'd been less informed, more trusting, slower to act. "Do you have a copy of what you signed?" I asked. Doris pulled a crumpled envelope from her purse. I unfolded the documents and read "Quick Claim Deed. Full transfer of ownership signed 3 years ago. Were you alone with their lawyer?" My son was there. "Did the lawyer explain you were giving up the house completely?" He said it was transferring ownership for estate purposes, and I thought that meant something different. I thought it was my house. "My husband and I bought it in 1978. Silence. Heavy, crushing silence. "This might be reversible," I said slowly. "If you can prove undue influence, that they pressured you, that you didn't have independent legal counsel, that you didn't understand what you were signing, it's not guaranteed. It'll cost money. It'll take time, but there's a chance." Doris looked up for the first time, hope flickering in her eyes. "Really, I know an attorney, Grace Hartwell. She'll review this, but Doris..." I leaned forward, making sure she heard every word. "Even if we get the house back, you need to understand something. Your son let this happen. He took you to his lawyer. He watched you sign. He gave you that eviction letter. The house you might recover. But the son you thought you had, you lost him 3 years ago when he made you sign that paper." Doris's face crumpled. She cried, not quietly, but with the full body sobs of someone who'd been holding it in for too long. She was devastated, the kind of devastated where your body goes numb and your brain refuses to process what just happened. Beverly and Patricia moved to comfort her. Margaret wiped her own eyes. When Doris finally calmed, I handed her Grace's business card and a sheet of paper with notes. "Questions to ask the attorney documents, you'll need what to expect in court. Call her Monday morning, tell her I sent you." After everyone left, I sat in my brown recliner with my laptop. I'd been taking notes from these meetings for weeks, Scripts, warnings, legal steps. But now I realized it wasn't enough. Margaret needed to know how to say no before she signed. Doris needed to know how to fight after she signed. And there were thousands of women like them. Thousands of mothers being slowly erased in their own homes. Thousands of Dorises who'd already lost ground. I opened a new document typed Chapter 9. If you've already signed what to do when you've lost ground, and I kept writing. 6 weeks later, the manuscript was 187 pages long. I sat in my brown fabric power lift recliner, the same chair where this whole journey had started, with my laptop open and the final chapter glowing on the screen. The House is Mine, a mother's guide to protecting your home, your money, and your dignity. 10 chapters. Chapter 1, Recognizing the Warning Signs. Chapter 2, The Legal Tools You Need. Chapter 3, How to Say No Without Guilt. Chapter 4, Financial Protection. Chapter 5, When Your Son Chooses Wrong. Chapter 6, Cutting the Cord. Chapter 7, The Legal Process of Eviction. Chapter 8, Rebuilding After the Break. Chapter 9, If You've Already Signed What to Do When You've Lost Ground. Chapter 10, Building Your Support Network. In the introduction, I'd written, "This book is for every mother who has been told she's overreacting, for every mother who has been made to feel selfish for protecting what's hers, for every mother who has been erased from her own home, one helpful suggestion at a time. You are not alone, you are not wrong, and you are not powerless." I wrote this book because I almost didn't act in time. I wrote it because I met women who acted too late. I wrote it because the difference between my story and theirs came down to timing information and the courage to say one word: no. If you're reading this and you're afraid, that's normal. I was terrified, but I acted anyway. And this book is my way of holding your hand while you do the same. My phone rang. Samuel. "Hey, Mom, I'm bringing you something. I'll be there in 20 minutes. "What is it?" "A housewarming gift for your new home." I smiled. "See you soon." The Wednesday meetings had grown. Word spread through churches, senior centers, neighborhood associations. We'd moved from my dining room to Beverly's larger living room to accommodate everyone. Doris came every week with updates. Grace had found irregularities in the original deed transfer. The notary wasn't properly licensed, and there was evidence Doris hadn't been given adequate time to review the documents. They were filing to void the deed. It would take months, maybe longer, but there was real hope. Margaret never signed. She set boundaries with her daughter-in-law, accepted that she might not see her grandson for a while, and joined a grandparents' rights support group. Patricia changed her locks and told her daughter-in-law that unannounced visits were no longer acceptable. The women were learning, fighting back, reclaiming, and I was writing it all down. My laptop pinged. An email from the small press I'd contacted 3 weeks ago. Subject: manuscript review. The house is mine. "Dear Miss Montgomery, we finished our review of your manuscript. This is exactly the kind of book our readers need. The combination of personal narrative and practical guidance is powerful and unique. We'd like to publish this by next spring. Can we schedule a call to discuss details? Best regards, Linda Chen, Senior Editor." I stared at the screen. They wanted to publish it. My story, my survival, my hard-won wisdom. They wanted to turn it into something that could help other women before they became the next Doris. I hit reply. "Yes, let's talk." Samuel knocked 20 minutes later, carrying a small wrapped box. I let him in, made tea. We sat in the family room, him on the chair I'd bought to replace the couch, me in my recliner. He handed me the box. "Open it." Inside was a small framed photo. Samuel and me taken at his college graduation. We're both smiling, my arm around his shoulders, his face bright with possibility. "I found this in storage," he said. "I wanted you to have it to remember that I wasn't always that I used to be my son." I finished. Yeah. I set the photo on the side table. Thank you. We drank tea in comfortable silence. Then Samuel said, "How's the writing going?" "It's done. A publisher wants it." His eyes widened. "Mom, that's incredible. It's necessary. There are too many Dorseys out there. Too many women who don't know their rights until it's too late. This book, it's not just my story. It's a roadmap, a warning, a promise that it's never too late to fight." Samuel nodded slowly. "Can I read it when it's published, of course?" He was quiet for a moment. "Then I'm proud of you, Mom, for everything, for saying no, for fighting back, for turning what happened into something that can help other people. You're kind of a badass." I laughed. Actually laughed. I'm 67 years old and I just learned how to protect myself. That's not badass. That's survival. "No," Samuel said firmly. "It's both." After he left, I opened my laptop one more time. My calendar showed tomorrow's entry, Wednesday, 4:00 p.m. sharp. Doris bringing court update. 2 new mothers from the senior center. And below that, Friday, 10:00 a.m., call Linda Ree cover design and publication timeline. I saved the manuscript one final time, attached it to an email. Subject line, final draft. The house is mine. Hit send. I walked to the window, looked out at my street, my neighborhood, my city. The remote control sat on the end table. No longer a symbol of someone else's power, just a thing. I picked it up, turned on the TV. A classical music station, violins playing softly. I turned the volume up one notch, exactly as loud as I liked it. No one interrupted. No one told me to turn it down. No one ordered me to my room. I sat in my brown recliner and looked around my house. My house. The sage green walls. The Liberty Bell print hanging where it belonged. The new curtains that let in morning light the way I liked it. The keys on the end table. The calendar showing Wednesday's meeting circled in red. Everything in its place. I said aloud to the empty room, to myself, to anyone listening, enough. And I understood that the word didn't mean scarcity anymore. It meant I had enough strength to set the terms of my own life. Enough wisdom not to save people who only wanted my resources. Enough experience to know that ownership isn't about control. It's about choosing who gets access to your peace. And enough clarity to teach other women the same lessons before they had to learn them the hard way. I turned off the TV. The house breathed around me. Steady, warm, safe. In the hallway, my tan blazer hung on the hook. My armor, my uniform. The kettle sat ready on the stove for morning coffee. And on my laptop screen, the email confirmation blinked. Message sent. The manuscript was on its way. My story, our stories, would become a tool, a weapon, a lifeline for the Margarets who needed permission to say no. For the Dorises who needed hope that it wasn't too late to fight. For every mother who'd been told she was overreacting, being selfish, losing her mind. I didn't just take back my house. I turned my survival into a blueprint. And I made damn sure that even the women who'd already lost ground knew they could still fight to get it back. I stood, turned off the lights, walked to my bedroom. The house settled around me. Quiet, peaceful mine. I climbed into bed. My bed in my room, in my house, and closed my eyes and I slept. The sleep of someone who'd finally stopped shrinking. The sleep of someone who'd chosen herself. The sleep of someone who was home. Where are you listening from? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thank you for watching Voices of Grace. Choose what you want to watch next on the screen.